so cool. You know what I love about this is there's dueling arpeggiations going on, and so you have the original arpeggiation that's being started by the piano. You know, it has its own and then there is another arpeggiation, but with a synth sound with a different set of notes within the the scale in which she's playing, in the key that she's playing, which is kind of the zip line, I like to call it. It's like a through line, a through arrangement, while she kind of takes us around a chordal journey and brings us this. It's very lighthearted. It seems like this particular track is a very lighthearted piece. I don't know anything about the game, so I don't know if there's gameplay going on here. It sounds like there probably is. It's called First Steps, so maybe this is a point of where the character in Celeste is looking to build something or is heading on their direction or something like that. But it very much has that very optimistic kind of vibe. And like I said, I really love the hybrid aspect. Actually, the piano, as far as I can hear right now, the piano is the only what I would consider organic instrument, be it played through a sampler or whatever. The rest of it, this really slick use of the synths, and these wide open arrangements really expand a really good tone representation, from 0 to 16K, or I like to call beetle fart to dog whistle. So there's nothing stepping on each other. It's very nice, and it still is very ambient, and that kind of with a little bit of the reverb on there is always going to give you that kind of glowing and gliding ambient kind of vibe here. So. I'm sorry, I want to go back a little bit because I want to play that little section I just played for you again. Here's another great move by our composer, is she took one of the sequences and then put some kind of sweeping envelope on it. So now it starts going, it gets softer, louder, thinner, then wider. And there's another sequence of chords that are being held down by kind of a keyboard sound in that background. When I go back a few seconds here, listen for that. It's just all this intricate movement, rhythmical ceremonial ritual, I'd like to call it, going on here. So let me just see if I can scooch back just a little bit here. How do I do that? I can do that with this, right? Hang on, I go like this, go back 5 seconds, 5 more, 5 more, 5 more. Okay, let's see what happens. How that sequence is reshaping itself. Has a little bit of a song structure to it. Nice melody lead. That was a trippy chord change there. I mean, it brought us out of the norm. Another super cool thing that's happening here is, she's using an arpeggiator. And these arpeggiators, in the chords that she's playing, that's giving it its rhythm. And in a very unique way that synths and arpeggiators can work together is that you can program it to, if you hold down a chord, it can go bop, 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 or it can go bop, bop, ba, da, bop, 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 ba, da. You can change the tempos of these arpeggiations and stuff, and she did a brilliant job on that in the chords that are being held down that support her melody. Thank you, Cat Trips. Welcome. Nice little fade there. Uh-oh, I think I've hit the last track for me. Okay, this is called Resurrections. So let's just keep going. Oh my goodness, this is a 10-minute track. Hang on, guys, here we go. Dark twist in that right there. She brought in this low, listen to the low arrangement. It's subtle, but it pulls. Gives us this little dissonant moment there. Somebody tell me what's happening in the game during this period, so maybe I can do a little theater of the mind. I love that. A little drum and bass. Thank you, Zomber 2, Louis Spaghetti. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you guys so much for cluing me in on what the character is doing and what's going on here. That does make a lot of difference. A lot of difference. I write good grammar. That makes quite a bit of difference for me when I'm, going through the experience of listening. But in of itself, the music does dictate some of those somber. Somebody left me there a comment. somber, hardworking, focused, mission-oriented kind of vibe. It seems like this track is more of an ambient assistance to the game. You know, and what I mean by that is that the ambience, obviously the ambiance, is created. You know, once again, we have this very light arpeggiation happen. So far, everything's had some kind of arpeggiation going on, and which is in motion. And that's what video games are in motion. And but what I will say is the introduction of these layers and arrangements as she's gone, you know, let's say 32 bars, another arrangement comes in, and there's turnarounds. Very ambient oriented. And I know that some people had talked about the difference between ambient composition for video games versus melodic composition for video games. When there was a conversation, which I'll probably have another completely different conversation about, the nostalgic, quote-unquote, days of 8-bit melodic composition opposed to what has maybe perhaps become more ethereal compositions. But I'm not a connoisseur of any of that. I'm just kind of engaging in that, like, wait, you guys are saying what? And it's opening my eyes, but that's what composition, end of story, to me is about. Sure, when a movie opens up, you've got the big melody going on or something. There's, you know, your main theme melody. But for the rest of the movie, it's music to guide you through scenes. And then at the end, you know, and then through the movie, or maybe through the video game, comes these les motifs, or the motifs that, you know, repeat itself a little bit, so you have a semblance of, like, oh yeah, that's part of the theme. So I think that's a conversation we all could probably have in of itself, and I will do more discussions like that on Twitch. But let's continue with this. I've got about 6 more minutes of this track, and then I got to go. So let's just keep going. Oop, I suck. Stand by. There are these subtle changes that happen in the arrangement where, oh, this is the end. Okay, cool beans. Then I'll just stop it here. Or maybe that wasn't the end. Was it not? Oh my goodness. I'm going to keep going. No, wait a second. And then I'll keep going, because it says here that this track goes until 14 minutes. So maybe I stopped at the wrong time. That's fine. I just want to say briefly, remember I was talking about the arrangements coming in and out, as long as there's something that's still a thread. When I came back in, there was this really dark, heavy, sinister kind of bass sequence that was going on there. It resonated very low. And so that kind of brings you back into, to me, the mission feeling kind of vibe of it. But then in the change up of the arrangement, that disappeared. When that disappeared, there was like a noticeable drop in the energy, in the heaviness. Even though the chords were still the same, there's a little bit of that minor chord vibe that makes you feel like, ooh, spooky, or working hard, or unsettled. But when that bass dropped out, a little bit of the heaviness, I'd say probably 35% of the heaviness just kind of disappeared. And it was floating in ambience. And then she brought in these little string swells behind it. So what this is, it's a game of arrangements that are popping in and out in layers and stuff. So. Sounds like this might be like the end of the path or something. Heavy. That was a nasty change there. I mean, nasty meaning good, just like nasty, heavy, dark, twisted. So it's changing into a chase scene. Hey, Mike, how's it? That's a funny emoji, Calico Fox. Great drum programming there. You see me make those faces because there's that one chord. Even if you know nothing about music, there's that one little change she does there that makes you feel like, what's happening there? Where are we going now? Please, driving Miss Daisy, not so fast. It is that kind of like a weird moment of, love the drum programming that's done there, especially with the little 30 seconds on the hi-hats. And there's a little bit of that in the snare, like a snare roll that's happening there. So it's obviously getting progressive. Really quick, before I go on, is it getting glitchy again? I'm sorry, guys. This is what's happening in my system right now. Here's my question, and then I'm gonna ask the question, and then I'm gonna start the music again. You guys fire away. What I'm hearing are the complete compositions, if you would. But you're saying like, okay, now this is a chase scene. The other one, is this what happens when you evolve through the levels? The music will change? Because I can't imagine that it's playing like in this 10-minute slot and you have 10 minutes to get to the end, that when you get to the next little one, the next little piece of music plays through. So if that's the case, let me know here in the comments and I'll start up the game thing. Hey, Tone, what's going on? How's it? Okay, now you see that's really super cool. You know what I loved about that? Oh, I think it's gonna go right into another thing, or is it not? Oh, this is like the last end of it. Oh, there's that little beetle fart I was telling you about. Okay, yeah, that's the end of it. Because apparently it's gonna fade into something else, and I don't have any more time to do another one. But what I will say is this very last section. As the piano arpeggio was going, you had that melody, whatever of that nature. There was a counter melody happening with another synth at a different tone and a different level. So that's really nice. The one thing that I've learned so far on this extremely brief exposure to composer Lena Raine and this game is the essential parts of the compositions are arpeggiations, things with motion. So things that are constantly going. But remember, I've only listened to 3 out of some odd, so I'm definitely not making a total assessment of anything. I'm just saying the 3 tracks that I've just heard is very motion oriented. The game looks really super cool. The game kind of looks like something I could probably play with my grandkids, if there's such a thing in multiplayer. But I still am too far away from even considering that. As far as being old man gameplay with a controller. I still haven't got my controller either. But I did love everything that I heard about this. Very ambient oriented. And I really dug that. And I guess against gameplay, this is really, really super cool. And it really works out well. So the game is basically about moving around. Yeah.